Hello all, welcome to the session on Sitecore JSS. My name is Gopi Sivanappan. I'm a Sitecore certified developer working with Sapient Razorfish. Sitecore JSS. Why JSS? Currently, the Sitecore application is monolithic. If I have to scale my application for the need of my business, I need to negotiate the same with Sitecore licensing team to get new licenses for each new instance and server that I'm going to add for my application. Also, the current Sitecore application is server-side technology. An application developed using front-end technologies cannot use the Sitecore capabilities like analytics, personalization, or A/B testing. If we need to have a page developed using front-end technology, the front-end developers should have a Sitecore instance in their machine for testing and integration purpose. These are all some of the shortcomings until the previous version of Sitecore. To overcome the shortcomings of this monolithic mode of current Sitecore development and deployment, we need Sitecore JSS. This makes Sitecore more scalable by introducing the load from Sitecore servers and delegating the same to node servers. This provides full experience editor capabilities for application developed using front-end technologies like React, Angular, etc. As I said earlier, this enables the use of full capabilities of Sitecore applications like analytics, personalization, and A/B testing for applications developed using front-end technologies. Also, this enables front-end developers to work in disconnected mode without having Sitecore instance in their machine. Also, this enables both behavior and content to be consumed from Sitecore and functionality to come from other front-end technologies. Mainly, Sitecore have made themselves compatible with the present day trend of disconnected development and made themselves competitive to other similar CMS like AP servers or Sitefinity. What is headless? There is a need to have the application development environment agnostic of the content to be consumed. CMS content can come from anywhere, but we need to have a headless disconnected mode of development where application development become more decoupled with its behavior embedding technology. Currently, present architecture of Sitecore was tightly coupled with its information architecture. Headless JSS will make development of applications possible with Sitecore, that is, the information architecture and presentation architecture in a headless JSS application is completely decoupled. Sitecore JSS architecture. We have in our development environment, we have multiple options to do the development. There is we can have a React style get template or Vue style get template or an Angular style get template to do our front-end application, and that application we call it as manifest. A manifest is a combination of sample data, its definition, and its behavior. This created manifest is then pushed to Sitecore through an import service, and this import service pushes the data to the Sitecore database. In Sitecore database, the information from the manifest goes and sits as Sitecore item. When we say item, it can be definition item like template, rendering rules, etc., or content items. Now this data have to be consumed by the browser for display. Here we rely on Node.js for doing this. Node gets the data from Sitecore through a service called layout service. Thus received data is then sent to the browser. We also have a dictionary service and GraphQL service from which the data can be rendered to browser in the client side. In order to adapt to the JavaScript disabled browsers, Sitecore JSS also have a Node view engine which does the server-side rendering to the browser. That's the server-side rendering, and there is a Node view engine which is giving the server-side rendering to the browser. Now this is how the application we develop, the front-end application that we develop using the template guides like React, Vue or Angular is getting rendered on the browser. So we can have both client-side rendering as well as server-side rendering for this. This is the architectural diagram given in the Sitecore website. You can refer this in the Sitecore jss.sitecore.net. Now let's see how we can set up the JSS Sitecore application. The first step that we need to check is the prerequisites. For installing a JSS app, we need Sitecore update 1 or above Sitecore version. Then we need Node.js and we need npm or yarn, and more specifically we need a JSS enabled Sitecore license. How can I check whether my Sitecore license is a JSS enabled one or not? Open your license.xml file and search for sitecore.jss. You will get to know if you're finding that is a JSS enabled license. We are good to go and create a new JSS app. If that is not there, then your Sitecore license is a older license meant only for Sitecore 8.2. So you need to get it renewed for installing a JSS license with your local Sitecore implementation partner. Now, after ensuring all these prerequisites, that is first thing, in having Sitecore 9 update 1 installed in your machine, having Node exe installed in your machine, install npm as well, and check your JSS license to be JSS enabled one. After ensuring that, the second step that we need to do is to install the JSS command line interface. So command line CLI we can install using this command, npm command, npm install -g @sitecore -jss/sitecore -jss/cli. So this will install the Sitecore JSS CLI in the global assembly cache. The corresponding yarn command is yarn global add Sitecore JSS CLI. In case if you are using a Mac machine and you need to use yarn in it, you can use the second line of command. The first line, the npm command, is enough for a Windows machine. Once I install the JSS CLI command line interface in a global assembly cache, we can create the application ourselves. Now, to create the application, we have multiple options from Sitecore. We can create it in 3 different style guide templates. Sitecore is currently supporting Angular, Vue and React. So there are style guide templates for all these 3 technologies. We can have our front-end JSS application created in any of these 3 technologies. The syntax for, or the command for creating this application is JSS create and provide your application name and the template name. Your application name should be in lowercase. It can have hyphen or underscore, but it cannot have any uppercase letter and it cannot have any special characters in it. So this is the condition for the application name. The app template will be the style guide template. Whichever we want to use, we can use either React, Vue or Angular based on your expertise in the corresponding language. Apart from these 3 style guide templates, Sitecore also provides some 2 experimental templates, that is Sitecore embedded JSS app and Sitecore JavaScript rendering. These are some special kind of templates which when we use, we can either embed a particular application inside Sitecore using the Sitecore embedded JSS app. It will not be a separate instance. It need not have a Node.js installed, and all those things are clearly documented in Sitecore JSS Sitecore.net website. Similarly, there is one more experimental template, Sitecore JavaScript rendering, where we can install a JSS app as a JavaScript rendering. Now in this I'm going to demonstrate to you how to create a JSS app using the React template. Yeah, let us see now how to create that. I have opened a command line interface or a command prompt, and I'm going to install my first JSS app. So the first command that we need to use is npm install -g Sitecore JSS CLI to install the CLI in our global assembly cache. I have already done that in this mission. So once you just run this command, you will get this installed in the global assembly cache. After running this, we have to say JSS create JSS your app name. I'm giving it as JSS sample app and the template that you need to use for. I can use either React or Vue or Angular. So I can use any of these three style guide templates. I'm going to create a sample React app, so I will use a React template for now. So the JSS app is installed now, and the installation result is giving you the next steps that has to be followed for the JSS app, for you to create your own JSS app. You have already created one. Now you can go ahead and test it. You can go ahead and add components to it and do the setup for the JSS and deploy it into your Sitecore instance. So the source control step we are not going to do, because we are not going to add the app into any source control as of now, but we will start from the next step, that is try out the application with cd JSS sample React app. So let me see whether the React app is created or not. Let me cross check that. Let me go to dir and say, okay, this JSS sample React app directory is available. Now let me go to the directory and check whether my directory is created or not. Go into my corresponding folder, and there is a directory created for me, JSS sample React app. Inside that I can see the necessary React components which is necessary for creating a React application is already downloaded and installed in my directory. Now all I have to simply do is just say JSS start. I have to go into the corresponding JSS sample app directory. So I'm just moving into saying cd JSS sample React app. This is my sample application which I have created. From here I have to say JSS start. This will build the sample app that is created and deploy it into my local host in a certain port. It can be 3000 or 3001, whichever port. Currently this will deploy it in 3000 port and will launch it in your browser, and we can see our sample app running. This is the installed JSS app. It has given us a sample page. In this sample page you can see some of the links to the documentation, GraphQL and style guide. And JSS, when it goes to documentation, it is actually pointing towards JSSsite.net, pointing to the internet, and style guide is actually having the necessary documentation of this React style guide. How can we use this inside a route, a separate route named style guide? Sitecore have given a proper documentation on how to use this React style guide. In case if I want a single line text box, how can I get it? A multi-line text box, how can I get it? And for example, if you see single line text box, the implementation and definition is given here. Implementation is inside the source component style guide field usage text index.js, and the definition is inside Sitecore definition components. So let me just walk you through the directories. Here, this is the Sitecore folder, this is the source folder. You can see here the source folder here under the implementation is given here, and inside source components you have the style guide field usage text. These are the different sample components created by Sitecore in its React style guide template. So in that I can see style guide field usage text in index.js. This file will give you how I can implement a single line text in React, and the definition for the same is kept inside this, that is under Sitecore definitions, components and field usage text. The definition will be kept inside this. Yes. So now let us deploy this and see inside Sitecore. Now how this application is currently running? The application is currently running in a disconnected mode. So there are multiple modes in which you can run this JSS app: a disconnected mode, connected mode, integrated mode. So we have, for development environment we have certain modes, and for production environment we have a certain mode of deployment. Currently with the sample app that we have created, we are currently running in a disconnected mode. Let us now do a round of setup steps inside the Sitecore instance so that we prepare up the Sitecore instance to hold the JSS app. How we prepare the Sitecore instance to hold the JSS app? First, we need to install a package in Sitecore. Then we need to configure a new subdomain for the Sitecore instance to access the JSS app, and then we need to configure a API key. These are the three steps in which I can set up the Sitecore instance to hold my JSS app. Now, step 1, installing the necessary Sitecore package in the Sitecore instance from the tech preview download. So where is the package available? The package that you have to install is available under dev.sitecore.net, downloads, Sitecore JavaScript services, 90 tech preview, Sitecore JavaScript services 90 tech preview 4. So tech preview 4 is the version of the tech preview when this recording happens. When this recording is happening, so this is the place where you can download the package, and the package is under downloads, resources, server package tech preview 9.0.1. this is the package version. Click on this, you will get a zip file. You have to install that in your Sitecore instance. Now this is my Sitecore instance. I have to install the tech preview 4 package inside this instance. I go to desktop, take the developer tools installation wizard, and this is the package. I have to upload the package and choose the package and go ahead and install it. I have already installed the package in this instance, so now I'm not going to do it again. Once the package installation is completed, the next step that we need to do is to add the handler configuration into our root web.config. Now how to add that? I have to go to my root web.config from my local Sitecore instance. Go to the root web.config, open the root web.config and find the system.webserver handlers. It's a web server handler, so find your system.webserver. Inside system.webserver you will have modules, and after modules you will have handlers. So here we need to add this new handler for handling the media items. So this is the handler that we need to copy paste. So Sitecore JSS media.asc is checks, and it is of type media request handler. So we need to copy this configuration into our local instance. So now you can see here it's already copied in this instance. Let me then close it out. After copying the handler, what we need to do is to create a new host entry or new subdomain into my Sitecore instance to host the JSS application that I have currently created. How to do that? We already know. All we need to do is to create a new binding in our Sitecore instance. Just go and add a new binding in our Sitecore instance. So what should be the name of this binding? What should be the name of this binding? What should be the name of this domain? The name is already given in our JSS app which we have installed. Let's go to the JSS app. This is my JSS app. Inside Sitecore config, you'll have the configuration. Inside this configuration, if we open this configuration is created once we install the sample app. Inside this configuration, you can find the host name. This is the site which is getting installed, and the host name is jss sample react app.dev.local. So I have to create a new binding for this host name in my Sitecore instance. So let me add a new binding for this app.dev.local. This is my new binding. Close, and I have to provide host file entry for this new binding in my local host. So let me just open my host file and provide the necessary entry. So I have to point it to the local host, and yeah, that's it. Now after doing all these things, we can verify whether our configuration is working or not by opening this URL. In this URL, you have to give the application name or the host name, and after that Sitecore API layout render JSS, and your item can be empty as of now because we are just verifying, and the API key you can provide as test as of now because we have not created any API key so far. So let us open this and check whether the installed application is accessible currently. Let me just put this sample URL in the browser, and what we get is a error. In fact, we have opened the sample URL with the test API key, and we get a API key not valid forbidden error. If we get this error, then we can be sure that the application that we have installed or the application we have set up is correct. Now all we have to do is to create a API key. How to create an API key in our Sitecore instance? Go to your core database, that is, I'll go to desktop, change the database to core. Now open the content editor and move to system, settings, services API keys. So here you will find this folder. If you have installed your JSS package, you will have this folder in your Sitecore core database, and you can see here this is just a folder in which we have to create the API key. Right click, insert API key. So once I have already created an API key, JSS API, app API, and this is the API key, and you will have to fill 3 fields in it: CORS origin, allowed controllers, and impersonation user. It is always recommended to have the impersonation user as extranet anonymous user. You can always create a new user and provide this role for that user and add it here. That is always possible. And for CORS origin, for development environment, you can have star. However, in case if you are putting it in any other environment, production or any other environment, you have to specify. It is always advisable to specify the corresponding origin domain name. You can just put the URL of the origin. If there is a multiple origin that is going to communicate with your Sitecore instance, then you have to give the origins with semicolon separated. Allowed controls, allowed controllers. Here we are actually having 3 controllers, that is the layout service controller, dictionary service controller, GraphQL controller. These are the 3 controllers that we have. In case if you are going to write your own controller for the Sitecore services, then you have to mention that controller as well. So controllers can be mentioned with semicolon separated. So ideally in any production instance, you can have these 3 controllers added in this field, allowed controllers field. Since it is a local instance, I simply put star. Star is also valid, but it is not recommended on a production environment. For extranet and the impersonation user, extranet anonymous is given. So this is the configuration that we need to give for the API, and the API key will be the GUID of this API that I have configured. Now in my test URL, instead of this test, if I replace it with the API key, I will get a JSON output. And if I am getting a JSON output like this, then I have my Sitecore instance configured and ready to accept the Sitecore JSS application deployment. Now the Sitecore part of JSS setup is completed. Now let's go into the JSS part of JSS server setup. I'm going into the JSS part. The step 1 is just type JSS setup . Let me go into the app. Inside your app directory, say JSS setup and give enter. So it will ask you a couple of questions, that is, please enter the path to the Sitecore folder. My path to the Sitecore folder will be my website directory path. So this is my website directory. I have to give this path in my JSS setup. Then it will ask for JSS app host name. The app host name is the one which we have added the binding for. So this is my app host name, and it should be given in HTTP URL format. So let me just copy with the HTTP. This is my app host name. And next, third question is Sitecore API key. So the API key is the one which I copied, which I created inside the Sitecore instance. So this is my API key. Let me just copy that API key and paste it here. And now the fourth question will be your deployment secret. The deployment secret is the one which is used by, in case if you are going into your production multi-mission environment, this secret will be shared across the machines in which you have your JSS apps, so that it can communicate with the Sitecore instance. For now, for your development purpose, you can allow the script to create its own deployment secrets, but in case if you want to create, you can also create you can also give a deployment secret. So I have not given anything and pressed on enter, so the deployment secret is created by default by the script itself, and it will be available inside the same config folder. So let us go and verify whether the deployment secret is available in the config folder. Yes, you have a new file .deploysecret.config. If we open this file, you can see the deployment secret key which is generated by the script. Now our next step will be to deploy our application. We have done with our JSS setup. JSS setup, as I told, have two parts. First part is doing the setup in the Sitecore instance in which I want to deploy my JSS app. The first step for that is to create a new binding. Second step is to have the handler added into the web.config. Third step is to have the API key created in the Sitecore instance. Now after completing the Sitecore configurations, we can come to the JSS configuration. We have to run the command JSS setup, and it will ask for the Sitecore instance path and the domain URL and the API key, which we can copy paste from the previous step and give. And finally the deployment secret. You can provide your own secret key with the same number of digits, or if you can allow the script to create its own secret key. Once that is done, our JSS setup is done. Now we need to do deployment. Deployment can be done in two phases. First, we need to deploy the configuration files. Second, we need to deploy the application. To deploy the configuration files, I can simply say JSS deploy config and say enter. What this will do is, it will take your configuration and put it inside, create a new folder inside app include folder of your app config include folder, and create a new folder called ZZZ. Inside that, your configuration will be deployed. In case if you want to deploy your configuration in a different folder, you can create your own folder and deploy it manually. This script will automatically deploy it inside the app root include ZZZ folder. You can go ahead and try to open it and see whether your configuration is deployed or not. Let me check that as well. This is my instance. Inside the instance, I go to app config include, there is ZZZ folder. Inside that, all my necessary app configurations are deployed. The configuration that I am concerned with is JSS sample react app.config, JSS sample react app.deploysecret.config. The other configurations are the other JSS apps which I have installed. You can ignore them. Now configuration deployment is completed. Now my next step will be deploy my application. How to deploy my application? I can simply say JSS deploy. It will deploy only the code that I have written for the React application into my JSS application created inside Sitecore instance. But if I want to include the necessary content and dictionary items, then I have to say -c -d as well. So let me deploy my JSS app, JSS deploy app -c -d and give enter. This will deploy my JSS application into the Sitecore instance. JSS app is deployed now. The deployment is completed, and I can see the necessary Sitecore items created inside my Sitecore instance. Let me open my Sitecore instance. This is my Sitecore instance. Let me go to the Launchpad and reopen it again. This is my Sitecore instance, and I can see JSS sample React app, which is the one which I have created in a disconnected mode and later on deployed into Sitecore instance. And this is the corresponding app, and I can see all the necessary components, contents, and the source files, that is the home page, and everything got copied. Similarly, I have done installation of multiple other JSS apps. So this is the proof that I can have any number of JSS apps installed into my single Sitecore instance. I can have even a React app, Vue app, Angular app created separately and then later on synced with the Sitecore instance and run it in a single instance. Now, if I open this home page in Experience Editor, I can see the sample home page which we have created is experience editable. The fields that we had in JSS app is enabled for experience editable. I can have A/B testing done in this. I can have my personalization components, personalization derived from this, and everything can be possible once I deploy my JSS app into the Sitecore instance. So we can have the disconnected mode of development, and once our disconnected mode of development is complete or it has matured to a certain extent, we can deploy it into our Sitecore instance and do the personalization and A/B testing and get the complete capability of Sitecore for our front-end application using the JSS app deployment. We have created a sample JSS React app and made the necessary setup and configurations both in the Sitecore instance and in our JSS app, and we did the deployment of that app. Now this is just a sample React app which is having a single page. Now how can I create my own component inside this sample React app? Now to create your own component, you can either do it manually. We have to do multiple definition creation, source file creation, template creation in your React application. You can, on the other hand, make use of the scaffolding script provided by JSS to create your own component. I'm going to use that to create my own component. So I'll just simply say JSS scaffold and my component name. My component name here can be anything. It should start with caps. That is the only condition. I can just say my sample component, and this will scaffold the necessary definition items and the necessary source items inside my JSS application. Now this is the definition item of my sample component, and this is the source item of my sample component. Let me open my JSS app in Visual Studio Code. File, open. This is my JSS sample React app. I'll select folder and open it. So this is my sample React app. It got created, and remember, I have already created a new component, custom component, and this is my own component, my sample component. The moment I say a scaffold, JSS scaffold, and my component name, it creates this index.js of my component inside source folder, and also it creates the necessary definition inside Sitecore definition components, and it creates my own definition as well. So this is the place where I can define the fields required for my component. I can either have a heading, I can have a field of type single line text, multi-line text, and checkbox. Whatever field types I want to have, I can have it here. And the way I have to define that and the way I have to code that is given inside the style guides. You can refer the style guides. The style guide is which I am referring to is this one. You can refer this style guide URL. I'll just take you to that style guide. This is the style guide URL. You can refer this and create your own sample React application, or create your own React applications. In case if you want an item link, you need a general link, you can refer into this. It is the implementation is inside this folder, this path, and the definition is given inside this path. You can just simply go inside that path. I can open up a sample for you. For general link, we have to go to path given for the definition item is field usage link. So field usage link, this is the general link style guide. Icon is general link, it's a field type general link. If it is an external link, I have to give a name like this. If it is an internal link, email link, and params link. Now how to get this implemented as a code, that is also available under source component style guide field usage link index.js. You can see how an external link is implemented, how an internal link is implemented, how an email link is implemented, and a normal link is implemented, right? So this style guide provides the necessary way of how we can implement multiple components or field types into our React application. Now once I did my component development, this is my component. Once I did my component development, I can have that component displayed in the UI through the routing. What is routing? We can go inside data, routes. What you see here on the landing page, is actually coming from the default route. This page is actually coming from the default route, that is inside routes en. The moment I click on style guide, you can see here inside this page the style guide item is pointing to /style guide route. It is pointing to /style guide route, which is actually going inside this route folder, and it is displaying the content inside the en.yml file. Similarly, /GraphQL will display the content inside under GraphQL en.yml file. So this is the place of your Sitecore item. Whatever you want to add, your Sitecore content, you have to add it here. This is a serialized format of your Sitecore item, and the definition of these Sitecore items, that is your Sitecore templates, can be added inside Sitecore definition. So here you will configure how many fields you need for that item, and what is the field type. All those things can be configured inside this place. And the coding for your Sitecore, that is your layout and your rendering, can be done inside your source components. So this is the place where you write your actual React single page application components using the fields that are being rendered from the data routes. So it is been rendered using these properties, props.fields.heading. So whatever I write inside this heading is getting rendered using my React code fields dot heading and fields dot content. So this is how the code is being rendered, right? So let me, if I want to add my code into the landing page, all I have to do is just inside the default routes default route, I can have it inside the default route, or I can simply create a new route. So let me just create a new route for you. I'll right click and say new file and say my new component, and I will have I copied a new existing route and created a new route from it. My new component is my route, and inside that I have a en.yml file, and I can have my own placeholders here. I can simply say my sample component as the component name, and it is only having the heading. So this is my first sample component. I've created a definition item, or sorry, I have created a content item for my new component. Now I have a definition item already for it. I have a source code already for it. Now I have to link it somewhere in my file, in my sample application. So let me just go inside en.yml, which is the default route, and let me add a new heading and call it as my sample component, and link my route inside it, my new component. Now having done all these changes, I have to deploy it to my existing JSS application. Let me deploy it. I can either test it in a disconnected mode. If for testing it in the disconnected mode, all I have to do is just open my existing localhost running instance. If it is running already, let me check whether it is running or not. Yeah, it is already running. I did a deployment, and I can see in my local instance the new component which I have created is now available. If I click on it, this is my new component. I just deployed it again into JSS using the same JSS deploy app -d-c command, and it will now be available inside my content editor as well. When I go into my content editor, open the content editor again, inside my JSS sample React app, I can see under components the new component which I have created is available. This is the component, and under home, this is the new component route that I have created. This new component route I have created. So let me just open it in the experience editor. It is already open. Let me refresh once to load the latest content, and this is my sample component. When I click on it, it takes me to the let me check on the deployed mode. If I refresh and click on it, takes me to the corresponding component in the JSS instance. Now I can see my component is available. How to open this in experience editor? I have to go inside the corresponding home node, and this is my component. I can simply say click on Experience Editor from here, and I can open the component in Experience Editor, and my content inside my component, which is coming from my heading, is editable in Experience Editor.